Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Happiness Chat. Human relationships fascinate me completely. How you meet a person for a few minutes but form a relationship that lasts for years. One such meeting was in the year 2010 at a radio station where I was invited as a guest of the then Consul General of India to Dubai, Mr. Sanjay Verma. I met his very graceful and very charming wife, Mrs. Sangeeta Matta Verma, there for the first time. Thereafter, we met again when I was involved in a charity event under the patronage of the Indian Consulate. It was an honor to make a contribution to a worthy cause by way of my books that were sold to raise funds. It is wonderful to meet such people who make a difference in the world. It is my pleasure to welcome my guest, Mrs. Sangeeta Mata Verma, to the Happiness Chat. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Uh, Thank you, Shilpa. Happy to be here. And thank you for giving me a good introduction. And I know we didn't meet very often in Dubai, but I think you were always on my radar because whenever we had events for ILA or Sathi, you were invited. And I kept hearing you off from the friends also. And even after I've left Dubai, I think I have, for some reason, I think through friends, because like I said, Dubai doesn't ever go out of a system. So the friends and through those friends, I somehow feel I have been in touch with you.
I completely agree with you. And it's wonderful
Mm.
to be in touch with you. So I have so many
Same
questions to
here.
ask you because I find that everybody has a journey, but yours, I would love to know about your journey from a young girl to someone living in a house that flies the Indian flag.
Well, it's been a fantastic journey, It's been an exceptional journey. And when I say exceptional, because I would say it's been with its ups and downs. And I wouldn't live it any other way. I wouldn't travel my life in any other way. But if I were to start, I think the starting point was my parents coming from Pakistan, and we had to uh, their families had to establish themselves because they came with nothing, as it happened with a lot of, I think, refugee families. And so, in a sense, my parents' generation really had to struggle. They really had to struggle to come up in life, to start working, and to give a good upbringing and education to their children, us. So uh, I think we benefited from their struggles because when we saw them doing it, I think we were raised with certain values that we wanted to please them. We really wanted to work hard to be able to do something to please them. And more than anything, I think what was unusual about my upbringing was that my mom was working. And it was very unusual for females to be working at that time, and she so self-educated herself, and she belonged to the first um, batch of State Bank of India. And so I grew up in a very happy middle class environment. And when I say happy middle class, it was normal. Things which were not really normal because, for example, since my mom was working, my dad used to contribute a lot. Like, he used to work as if he was, as if he were another member of the house, not like a man, in a sense. Like, he would cook, he would clean up, he would wash clothes, he would anything, to chip in, because my mom was working 9 to 5. He would contribute. Like, he would take care of our education. We would come back, he would be doing homework with us. So it was a really, really different environment because I grew up in Old Delhi. Because both my families came and they settled in Old Delhi, and Old Delhi had a very different ethos. So So I grew up in that very different ethos, and we moved within Delhi three times because parents wanted to give us like better lifestyle, open, because old Delhi is very congested. They wanted us to play, so we moved, and so we moved schools. But that aside, happy childhood. I joined university in 1983, did my political science honors from Delhi University, and then 86 I joined JNU. Now that is actually the inflection point of my life, because not that I decide to be in academics, it was a huge decision. And two very, very significant things happened in my life. One, I lost my dad. So I lost my dad very young when I was just 20. And I also met Sanjay. And it all happened within a window of 1 month. So that actually encapsulates my life. In a sense, you have happiness and you have sorrow at the same time. It kind of balances it out. And but what I learned was to embrace both. Embrace both in a sense, have always looked at the happy memories spent with him. And of course, my new journey, my new, like as I say, part two began then with Sanjay in 86. And till now, we've been together now for 36 years, and it's been a wonderful, happy journey. So that's how it happened. Then 86, joined JNU. 88, finished my MA. 80, 90, I finished my MPhil. I got a scholarship. So I also enrolled for my doctorate. And 90, we got married when Sanjay got into civil services. Sanjay came to Delhi from Bombay to primarily appear for civil services. But then he always keeps saying, I had to come from Bombay to meet you. you know so that was something we both cherish. And so 6 years were spent in JNU from 86 to 92. 90, we got married. 92, we left for Hong Kong, our first posting. And since then, we have lived in 8 countries, and each country, each posting has been very, very special. It'll be very difficult for me to pick up, but if you allow me, I could tell you, if there's time, that how each country has contributed to my journey. It has contributed to my growth. It's contributed to us as a family. So that has been the journey. So 92 Hong Kong, 92 to 95, we were in Hong Kong. That was our first posting. And I was still enrolled for my PhD. And I came to Hong Kong and I became a research associate at the University of Hong Kong. I was teaching there at the department. And and this was all, I did my MPhil on China. I was working on Chinese study. I was doing Chinese studies. So Hong Kong was like a dream destination for me, to observe China closely, and Hong Kong was to become a part of China. And so I was working there as a research associate. And Sanjay was also learning Chinese language. As diplomats, they have to do one language, and Chinese was his. And so 3 years passed there like dinks, double income, no kids, and also as students observing Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a very political place at that point, because it was just before the handover. So, in fact, at my department, I was in close interaction with some of the prominent dissidents, and 95, I became pregnant, and I was 29, and I became pregnant, and then that's another chapter of life. And then we went to Philippines. I delivered in Philippines. So Sanya was conceived in Hong Kong, but I delivered her in Philippines. And Philippines happens to be a very different country, a very unique country. It's an only Catholic country in East Asia. It's a country which is, I mean, it's a country of many influences. It's in East Asia, so it has some Chinese influence. It has a lot of Latin influence because it was a Spanish colony, and because of their close association, political association with America, it's highly Americanized. So it's a very interesting country, and it's an English speaking country, so it was very easy to live with, and they love children. So Sanya's birth was birth wasn't a breeze, but bringing her up was a breeze there. And then from Philippines we came back to India, and once I came back to India, I kind of thought about things, like, because Philippines I could not get an opportunity to work the way I worked in Hong Kong, because I realized I was working in a very niche area, because not many places would have a good university offering Chinese studies. So I knew that I would have to do something else. So I enrolled for a full time program at Delhi University again at the age of 34 when Sanya was 4 years to do my full time B.Ed. And I think it's the most rigorous program in Delhi University, a year full time B.Ed. But I did that, and then I joined Sanskriti School, very prestigious school, as uh, their pol science teacher, and also their first uh, teacher for their first batch of 12th. And I did that for 2 years till we were in Delhi. Then we moved to Kathmandu, which was um, a very very uh, different experience, in a sense. One felt that it'll be very close to India, but it may be a Hindu, but it's also very Himalayan. And so it's got a lot of Buddhist elements, and I mean, and you culturally it is close to both these influence. It's very Hindu Himalayan, and it's got a lot of Tibetan element, a lot of Himalayan. I mean, it is also divided, if you know, it's um, Tarai and Parvatiya. So Tarai is very close to Indian culture, but Parvatiya culture, which is their mountain culture, is very different. And so Kathmandu was another interesting phase because it was soon after that fratricide, if you remember, when the entire royal family was killed, right? Murdered. So there was King Gyanendra, and his coup happened when we were there. So it was again, I mean, it was a country at that point that was grappling with democracy. It was from kingdom, it was trying to become a democracy, which is still happening. I think they're still going through the elections. So it was a very interesting phase. And personally, we were very happy. I mean, Sanya was growing up, and then from Kathmandu, we went to Beijing. Very interesting times. We went to Beijing in 2005. It was preparing for Olympics in 2008. We were there. The whole country, as if getting spruced up for a debut party, And I then, uh, I was teaching at the university in Kathmandu. I was teaching East Asia. Fortunately, I got a chance to teach there at the university. I taught there at the university. I also uh, taught in a school. Taught in a school. I set up being an international relations person, having that background. I set up their mock UN, which is a very very, I think, done thing these days. But that at that point, it was very new to Nepal, and they wanted me, one of the best schools there, Rato Bangla. They wanted me to set it up for them, how it happens, and make it an inter-school kind of a competition. So I did both of that, and then came to Beijing. Beijing joined an international school teaching history. So I've had to reinvent myself. Whatever has come my way, if it's teaching at the college, teaching at school, or being a media person, being a resource person. So I have done that, I mean, so that's how the journey has been. 2008, Beijing, then back from Beijing to Delhi, then teaching at the British school, history again at IB. Then from Beijing, we went to Dubai. Now, Dubai, I was teaching, not many people know, I was teaching at the Raffles International history. And but it was so demanding, I could only teach for a year there. And there it was full time working with Sathi and ILA and many other courses. And after Dubai was Ethiopia, Africa, a very evocative place in many senses, again civilizational. And again, I did a lot of work there. And also, again, since I was doing a lot of work with Sathi, but I wasn't a trained special educator. So in Ethiopia, we had also become empty nesters by then. Sanya had left us, so I had a lot of time. So I did a course in special education from British Council there, for children who are on spectrum, and Asperger or mildly autistic. And I also work with organizations which, do surgeries for women who have fistula. Fistula is because, as you would know, genitalia mutilation is very common in Africa. So once they have that, they get incontinence, I mean, and they're very embarrassed of that, the young women there. So there was this organization that worked with Red Cross to do their surgeries. So I was, as a part of a diplomatic, I was working with the diplomatic core group there, as a secretary, because I think as Indians we are blessed with our communication skills, we are blessed with our uh, language skills. So I was working there with them, and then we worked there, and we were there for a short while. I mean, we didn't Africa, and then Sanjay was called for a chief of protocol assignment in Delhi, and came to Delhi. And this time, since I hadn't worked in Ethiopia in a sense that aggressively working, so I again thought about my life, like would I like to go back to school or teaching? And I took a decision not to. I decided that I'll take a probably, I would like to explore more things. And then I started working for a group called Teamwork Arts. This is a group that organizes Jaipur Literary Fest, if you're aware. Yeah. In fact, not just Jaipur Literary Fest, they're probably one of the biggest curating companies, I mean, in terms of doing cultural and uh, all kinds of literary festivals, cultural festivals all over the world. So I joined them as content editor and manager, and I worked there for 2 years till we came to Spain. And from Spain, then I keep either working with them sometimes, or I started doing my language, like as I told you. So that's been my journey. So it's been exceptional. It's been with lots of highs and lows, and I mean, on personal fronts. And like I told you, lost my dad, but had Sanjay. Motherhood has been very mixed, but it's been. But I think I feel proud of the fact that I stay in a house that flies the flag. And I mean, looking back and from where I've come, I I look back with a lot of contentment.
Wow, that's
Long
really
answer.
been a journey. And
It's
the other thing I'm thinking, Sangeeta, that if one has to write your CV, it'll go into 10 and 20 and I don't know how many pages, because how many things you have studied and learned and done is amazing.
that every time you go, opportunities are there, the doors open. You just, I mean, you take it. And I've been fortunate, that I've met interesting people, have had great opportunities, and have had great support system also at home. I mean, Sanjay has been very encouraging. I mean, I know I have kind of given my romantic interaction very brief, like we met and we got married, but it wasn't all that easy. Because his parents weren't like very open in the beginning, because they thought he had come to study here for civil services. And here he's got like, I mean, he's met this girl because because we were very committed. Like he met me in 86 August, the same month as my dad passed away. And from the moment he met me, he we both actually we both were very committed to each other. And so he wanted me to meet his parents, and that excitement. And they told him, till the time you clear this exam, we're not meeting her. So it was like, those 3 years were fraught with a lot of tension also. But like I said, in the end, it all turned out so well. And, I mean, the day he cleared his exam, they came to Delhi and met me, and everything was great. So it's been all, like I said, in the end, it's been all good, hunky dory.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, what I'm thinking, I've just heard of the various postings that you've had. So, every country has its own nuances and challenges. It could be political scenario, language barriers, or tough economic situations. How do you adapt to them, and how do you make it look so easy?
Well, I think first, I think it's that you have to go with a very open mind, to a place, to a new place. You have to really, I mean, look forward to it, and which I've always done. And number two, I think one should try and immerse oneself, in that place. Get to know as many people, get to know their culture, and like if it's possible, get to know their language. I think I've tried it at different places. I used to speak Chinese, and now I'm learning Spanish. I used to speak Nepali, and you also open your heart to them, and also you open your heart to them, and then you realize that they also open their hearts. Homes, not as much as Indians do, because we Indians are, I think, number one people when it comes to hospitality and opening their homes. But I think more than that, I think it's the uh, yes, it's the adaptation. I think it's the flexibility, adaptation, and I think finding joys, and and I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm very experimental with food, and food. When I say food, I know a lot of people think of food and they use the term foodie very lightly, but I like to read about food a lot. Read it from different perspectives, like historically. How particular food has come to this place. What are the influences in that place. And I think food is a great window, you know to a place. It kind of, it opens up the place. And you get to know, I mean, for example, India is so diverse. People don't know so much about Indian food, but as an Indian, there's so much more to India, and so much to talk about Indian food. What came to India from the British, and what was the interaction, what was the exchange. So similarly, food as not just a conversation point, but food as not just existential, I mean, just to eat, but food as something to know, I mean, how, why something grows in that country, from where it came. So I'm hugely interested in that. And that also, helps me get to know a place. But more than that, I think being flexible, enjoying. Now, like for example, in Spain, I'm learning their language, I'm learning flamenco dance, I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to know about this Roma community. So, then then you meet people who are also empathetic to you. So it's a two-way street. I hope I have answered your question.
You answered it so well, and I'm just thinking that what you are talking are all the things that COVID has also taught us. It is just about adaptability. Challenges are thrown, a new situation comes, and how you have to adapt. I mean, adaptability, I think, is has been the key learning of COVID. How from your personal meetings, your travel, everything comes down to Zoom, but people have, adapted. So when I was hearing your story and your take on it, I was just thinking about the present times, and you put it across so well.
It's when I'm talking about it, it's not always been all that easy because my daughter, who's an only child, for her it's been very difficult, because for her, it's not been very easy to understand, I mean, that moving every 3 years, finding new friends, because I think teenage kids are not very kind to each other, and especially girls, and she's also been someone who's been very, very, mm, who's been very kind of uh, involved with this question about her identity. Who am I? Am I an Indian? I mean, now she's very sure. I mean, I think, went through this whole process because we let her be, because, we let her do it on her own, explore the thing. And that is why she took this decision to go back, from Dubai to study in India. Because she said, I'm quite fed up of moving with you. I want to go back to my country now. So that has happened, in our home, because we probably have this maturity, to think, and we have each other. But she probably, since she has us, but I think children need their peers, they need support from peers. So for her, it had been really difficult, but that she made to be something like of something of a hallmark of a personality, because that was her, when she took admission for her MA, her essay was all about how she feels now that she's full of gratitude to us because we have given her cultural exposure to so many countries, and how she has learned and assimilated each country into her. It's been so that's finally it is that's how it's turned up.
Turned out so well. So, in an age of instant and free communication where everyone has an opinion and also access to various platforms to express their opinions, I have deep respect for the officials and their families in the diplomatic service who maintain their composure and dignity in spite of provocations. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you're very right. I mean, I think it's all the time you feel that people are trying to provoke you. Sometimes you feel that people are trying to talk to you, thinking that as if you are India, they're complaining about India to you. But I think if you follow, and I think I must qualify my answer right in the beginning and say it is challenging in a sense because sometimes your own personal viewpoint may not be in line with the government's view or your husband's view, if you're a strong personality. But then you have to follow certain rules and principles. So for me, the mantra has been that whatever government comes and goes, whatever view they hold, I look to constitution, as like my main, mantra. I mean, what's there in the constitution, whatever is embodied in constitution is what India is, you know. So that is for me, so whatever someone is saying, if that doesn't fall in line with what constitution says, I'll oppose that, and if it falls within the line, I probably will subscribe to that view. That's me. And we have a very both me and Sanjay have a very highly secular outlook, so it's easy because if you have a secular outlook, it's easy because then you are kind of accepting of many views, and that's what India is an umbrella where there are a lot of views and a lot of identities, a lot of groups, communities that are there. I mean, today I mean, people may talk about polarization, but I still feel that we still have place for everyone in India, and that's what you respect, and that's what probably you you kind of hold. true to your, you hold true to that. And I think if you follow that, it's easy in a sense. Then you know where you stand. You don't have a very partisan view. You have a view which is like that you are serving the country, and you're doing that within the framework of constitution. And like I said, we are very secular, so we don't we are not very close to one community or the other. As an ambassador, or as an ambassador wife, we represent every Indian who's there, whether they're Parsi, Sikhs. So it's very, uh, and plus, I think if you're aware of your own country, you're aware of your country's identity. Like when I talked of my journey, I feel my journey is very parallel to my country's journey, So if as a small girl, and I'm in a house that's raising a flag, it speaks of aspiration. And that's what our country is, aspirational. And so we have issues, but we also know how to resolve them. And I think somewhere, I think I've learned that I have that resolving mechanism. I know when to tell people to stop. And also being aware, I think it helps, because let's say this is within India, but if it's sometime you hear views which um, are a contrarian position to a different country, then you know that every country has flaws, or every country has had blemishes in its history. Whether it's Germany, or whether it's the entire West. I mean, look at the colonial past, or America, look at neo-colonialism. So, it's easy to then, kind of be part of that conversation with people, make them see, from where they are coming and from where we are coming. So I think it's important, you have the certain principles, not, I mean, it's the constitution, then don't be chauvinistic. I don't think, don't have that position that you're superior to any. Like I said, we all had our blemishes, we all have had a journey. And as nations, as persons, you respect that. And I think giving that space, respect to each other, you move.
Brilliant. And I'm just thinking, I'm also, political science student from Delhi University. So I think that because we studied the Constitution, so, the word secular, when you say, you studied it in so much of depth, you can truly
Yes.
appreciate it. And I'm sure all that learning, along with the other so much further learning that you did, really helped in
Mhm.
your mindset.
Yes, because secular outlook is something, that I think is you imbibe and, you breathe it. Like it's not something that probably you also, like you said, as a student of political science, of course, you know the nuances when it was inducted and how it happened. But more than that, you may be a student, but it's your life, it's your outlook, that has to be secular. And living in a country like Dubai, you know how important it is to be secular. I mean, it is like you live in an Islamic country, but it welcomes countries of, I mean, people from all faiths, and people of all faiths coexist there, but yet they respect those Islamic laws, So that's, like I'm saying, it becomes, so people of Dubai have that ingrained within them, that this is the umbrella that we are living in, and within that they have. So similarly, for me, that the umbrella is Constitution of India, and then you just kind of live.
And that is a big umbrella to have.
Yeah,
So
but we are fortunate. We are very, very fortunate, aren't
very,
we? I
very
mean, to have a
fortunate.
great constitution,
I think one of the best.
one of the best documents that kind of is living, that evokes so much of debate, but yet it's, I mean, everyone respects it. How it came into being, it's one of the, like the best written, I think, constitutions.
Absolutely. Okay, Sangeeta, so this is the happiness chat. Please tell me, what does happiness mean to you?
Like I said, happiness for me is something that you don't go out seeking. It's a byproduct of a lot of things that you do in life, and I think it happens at times. It's happening, and you don't even realize it. When it's happening. It's the small things, small moments, and you probably are very happy at that point, and you're not even kind of absorbing it, realizing it, but that's happiness. And I for me, happiness is in actually in small things, and I would distinguish between happiness and like I think I don't confuse it with being a state of mind for a short time, because I think in Hindi, actually, if you explain it, there's a better word. There is khushi, and then there is anand.
Yes.
So happiness is anand. you know you're in that state. You're in that state of being, and when you're in that state of being, then probably you're just happy, and like I said, life has got ups and downs, and it has its ebbs, but you just ride it along, and there's so many things, so many moments of happiness, and then you just kind of keep focusing on those small moments, and then life seems happy. It seems that it is at that happiness level. So don't I kind of you don't seek it out. I mean, I'll do this and I'll become happy. You do things that you like, you pursue your passion, you pursue what you are interested in, and happiness will come to you. Or I mean, whatever gives you happiness. I mean, if and I think one thing definitely is for sure. Probably if you do things with higher pursuits, I mean, something with higher pursuits, achieving or helping others, then they definitely give you that anand kind of happiness. It's there with you. It's not like short, it's there. you know
You said it so beautifully, and I love the way you have translated it into the word Anand, because happiness is so much more than just a fleeting moment. It's beautiful the way you said it, and it's been such an honest and a refreshing conversation with you today, just so real and from the heart. Your journey has been fascinating, and the various roles that you have played so well. You're a picture of grace, something that we seem to have forgotten in these paranoid times. So, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your journey with all the wonderful insights. It's truly been a pleasure.
Really, for your kind words, thank you for interacting with me, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and yes, one more happy moment.
Lovely.